Jewish Moshiach, the world king, is coming soon. All people waiting for Moshiach. In our rich history, we find different level of waiting for Moshiach. In the past, our feeling of waiting for Moshiach only increased during the bad times. When we experienced the sermon of the bias Hamikidus, the destruction of the holy temple, when the Jewish people could not make a life for themselves, or at the time of physical persecutions, our waiting for Moshiach increased. There are two Hasidic stories might give great insight to waiting for Moshiach. When a great Rabbi was told that Moshiach had arrived, he quickly went to the window, stuck out his head, took a sniff and said, "It doesn't smell like Moshiach." A question was asked, why did the Rabbi have to go to the window and stick out his head? He should have felt it lacking from his room. The answer given was that he already had the feeling of Moshiach in his own room. What he needed was that the world should feel Moshiach, and for that he waited. The Maggid was on overheard praying, "Master of the universe, you must send Moshiach now. If not, there will be no Jews left for him to meet," meaning that things were so bad. There could be no more waiting. Yet, perceptions are different for people. For a charitable organization, it is when balance the payroll one time for a housewife. It is when she get a new dishwasher or a maid. And for a toddler teacher, it is when she get all the 2-year-old potty that Moshiach to further prove the point. I offer you a funny story of two tailor who heard that Moshiach was coming. Tailor A says that when Moshiach will come, when we will have plenty of work, because the dead will rise and they will need clothes. Tailor B says that sound good, but there also will be tailors who rise up from the dead, so we will not get all the work. Don't worry, says Tailor A, only we will know modern Israel. Last but not least, there are people worried of a Yom Hadin, a day of judgment, so they may not really want or wait for Moshiach. Leaders and Moshiach. Every generation, these great leaders like Moshe and Aaron, they are maybe great rabbis, Rosh, Hivas and Magdim, but only one is worthy of being Moshiach. We find it the Talmud, where is Rabbi said that their teacher was Moshiach. Rabbi Akiva went so far as to have said that Bar Kokhba was Moshiach, and we was proven wrong. Today, as we search and find it Moshe and Aaron of our generation, we ought to remember that Moshiach for whom we have been waiting may very well be that person. Moshiach of a generation feel the purity of the mitzvahs, and if the world is worthy, he can recognize and reveal himself. But how does this happen? If happen through Teshuvah, returning to Orthodox root Torah, making more time to study, Tzedakah, giving as much charity as possible, and Exodus, expressing unity of the Jewish people through love of your fellow Jew. The time is fast approaching as we witness the ingathering of the Jewish people to Israel, a new religious adherence in the world. The disintegration of atheistic government and the punishment of great dictators. So it seems that the time is now. There is a story told to us by the rabbis of Levkutsk concerning the redemption. The holy Baal Shem Tov met Moshiach and asked, "When will you come?" He answered, "When you will spread out the teaching of Sessidus, then I will come." According to the Sesidim, Moshiach will come when Jesus returned to eradicate by increasing mitzvahs and the study of Sessidus. This is true happening in unprecedented measure. Jacob, our patriarch, saw that in the spelling of the name of his 12 children, the Hebrew letter of Ses or Tes, one mark pounds for when these letters are put next to each other. They spell chit, meaning sin. Jacob, sensing that they had no sin felt, he could bless these children and tell them when Moshiach would come. However, he soon realized that the Hebrew letter Kaf and Tazadik were also lacking in their names for when these letters are put together. They spell Ketas translate as the time for Moshiach Regulation. Therefore, Jacob could not reveal the time of Moshiach Revelation, and subsequently we wait to this day. In the past, we surely waited for the Moshiach because our existence was very disparate. Now we are being taught that it is a mythos to want and wait for Moshiach even when things are relatively good. Yes, now more than ever the time for us to increase our mitzvahs and rid ourselves from sin and become worthy of the Creator's Moshiach's Revelation. When we do our part of imbuing the holiness, then we will see the Revi open the window and say, "Yes, the air outside my room feel like Moshiach. Now let's go home to Etras, Israel." As Maimon says in the 13th principle of faith, I firmly believe in the coming of Messiah, and although he may tarry, I daily wait for his coming. Moshiach coming soon. We want Moshiach now. Have you sang it? What did you mean? The Torah teaches us about the some stage of redemption. Shemot 6. Though God's miraculous intervention in the world, the 10 plagues, there was a mass exodus, perhaps the greatest story of liberation and redemption in human history. But we have to ask ourselves, is this the historical model for future redemption? Is the way that we want it to occur? As a miracle of God in the middle of the plagues, the Torah says, "There is none like me in all of the land." It is only distinguishing God from the belief in other gods. It is distinguishing what God can and should do versus what human can and should do in general. We follow halakha b'rekab, that we emulate the ways of God, but here there is limiting. It may be the text is saying, "I can redeem the world through a punishment of the other," but do not think that you should emulate this in search of your own redemption. There is none like me. There is no one on earth that may act as I am acting here for higher reason. Then you can understand, thus the redemption from Egypt is different from the future model of redemption. Jewish messianism is everywhere. In modernity including Zionist, Shabbat, and secular Jewish messianistic. We can take the messianic impulse out of the Jew. Today the messianic impulse can have very dangerous expressions. More and more we see messianism leading to extremism and also to the watering down of core Jewish values. The notion of the coming of Moshiach not only become disproportionately important in Jewish thought, but also a justification for lack of responsibility. The concept of Moshiach become a religious excuse, a crass, a shortcut, when it is our collective version of the truth fairly. Esther Boney, our Santa Claus, will risk religiously remaining children, consistently expecting a supernatural intervention that will instantaneously change all of nature. We interpreted a prophetic hyperbole too literally, but there is of course a very different model at the foundation of Jewish thought. Hey, your waiting days finish, so Moshiach is coming soon, and today is my discussion over. All people, thank you, goodbye.